Well, that's right. You see it. We're out and about in Frisco, Texas. Orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. Shrine game again, Mace. This is a really important start to the All-Star road trip. We do it every year.
It is, and it's especially important because if the Broncos are going to navigate this salary cap, a little bit of a mess that they find themselves in. It's not something that you can't work around, but if you're going to navigate your way out of this, you've got to hit on later round picks. You've got to have them producing relatively soon, and that's really what the Shrine game is about for the most part. You're going to see most of these guys that land in that late day 2, day 3 range, some that end up undrafted as well. But the Broncos need to hit on some of these guys, and that's why, frankly, some of the players out here that we saw today were really intriguing.
They're really intriguing, and players the Broncos should be considering. You may not think they need a wide receiver. We've done a wide receiver show on this channel. Check it out on our YouTube playlist. But I'll tell you this, Mace. If you could get David White, wide receiver from Western Carolina, I said it earlier, when they were warming up, he was flashing. And I was like, I need to ask Mace where Western Carolina's at. And as practice went on,
North Carolina, by the way.
He knows where it's at. As practice went on, he kept flashing.
And the thing is, it was a day that he left some meat on the bone because there were some catchable passes that he didn't get. Now, some of that, though, talking about a first day working with a quarterback, so timing issues are part and parcel of the first day of an All-Star game practice. I'd like to see what David White does tomorrow, another day down the line, because the route running was there. The way he sets up a defender and kind of almost, guides him at his whims almost. The way he sells his fakes, a nice little head bob that he's got as well. He does things at a very mature level, and yes, as you wrote in your piece, Cease, very reminiscent of the guy we saw last year, A.T. Perry, out of Wake Forest, who flashed for the Saints. And yes, a little bit of Tim Patrick, although I'd say David White is longer than Tim Patrick. That's the thing that jumps out, is his length. You said like a cobra.
Slithery.
I see him like a spider in terms of the length that he has in his limbs.
Okay.
But really, he's got some things that you can't coach, but the things that you can coach in terms of route running, he's already doing them at a very high level. Very intriguing prospect.
Yeah, and from Western Carolina, you love seeing that from small school prospects who abound on this game, and we'll be talking about more as the show goes on. And when do we talk about a guy being slippery before the catch? Like, it's where the Cobra reference comes in, because he's almost like he's putting you in a trance with his route, and then he cuts and breaks and turns on that speed.
Yeah, it's really impressive, and I'd say that he was out there in the first practice that we saw, the East team practice, and of the wide receivers in that practice, he was the one that stood out the most. Even though, we'll come to the quarterbacks a little bit. The quarterback play didn't really do the receivers any favors today. No. If you're shopping for quarterbacks, I know we've talked about the Broncos with Davis Webb, quarterback coach, being the West coach, offensive coordinator, that are they going to find somebody here? Maybe you find somebody you take a flyer on, you bring in the room. I don't know that you're necessarily saying, okay, our rookie quarterback that we're bringing in is out here right now. It's not. I don't. It's early. I don't see Aiden O'Connell out here. But again, it's day one. We'll get to that. I thought Keaton Slovis did some good things for the West team today.
Yes. Yep.
I was pretty disappointed in Talia Tagovailoa out of Maryland. Basically
to his little brother.
Yep, and used the pejorative check down Charlie. Watching him today.
Yeah.
But that's so. Also, when you talk about the receivers, on Saturday they weren't done any favors by the quarterbacks, and we still were able to see flashes from David White. Also saw flashes for the West team, a couple of guys with the same surname, Taj Washington and Malik Washington. You can, you know what?
Which one do you want to start with? Because Taj is damn good. He's my player of the day from USC, but Malik Washington might have had the catch of the day.
Let's start with Malik Washington. Here's that beautiful bean footage. The thing I liked about that play, Cecil, there's a little bit of contact there. But if you watch the way he gets separation with that contact, it's in the context of hand fighting. So he's going to get away with that almost every time in the NFL. And sometimes it's about what you can get away with. How far can you go to the line without going over it? And Malik Washington today, I thought, kind of had that sense of what kind of contact he could use to get separation, but not result in him falling on the wrong side of the flags. Because one thing that was evident today, the officials were more than willing to throw flags. A Bill Vinovich crew, this was not. They were whistle happy today.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in the one-on-one drills between receivers and defensive backs.
Yeah, and it comes down to one-on-one drills. It comes down to team drills as well. We saw a lot of good wide receiver play. And with Malik Washington, you see that he doesn't make it obvious. It's OPI, but the angle and the way he did it, it's not like he extended his arm and it was just completely obvious that he pushed off. He pushed off, no doubt. You just saw the clip.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to throw a flag on that play.
Exactly. And when you are not meeting that threshold, where the threshold is pretty low for flags as it was today, that says a lot about figuring that out. So Malik Washington out of Virginia. I know you want me to say Virginia just because.
I know. I was looking forward to that the whole day.
There you go. See, I'm here for you.
Thank you.
And we're going to go now to Taj Washington, who had a 1,000-yard season for USC this past fall. Your top receiver today.
Yes, player of the day for me. And I wrote it's easy to see playmakers at these games. Like, they pop. Yeah. And that's what's so important about these practices. I know y'all may be saying, like, well, it's just practice, who cares? No. The scouts care. That's who cares. And the evaluators care. And when you're a playmaker, and mainly what I write down, and this is why even warm-ups for me is kind of interesting. I'm not going to say important, but kind of interesting. Who wants it, right? Not just the small school guys who have something to prove. This is a USC guy that comes out there like, I'm the best here. And he wants it, and that's really important because he could be thinking, why I'm going to be at the Senior Bowl next week, or, why am I here? I'm USC, I'm a 1,000-yard guy. There's a lot of things he could be thinking. He's thinking about winning, and I love seeing that.
Yeah, and also a guy who plays larger than his size. I mean, this is now David White, we talked about earlier, long, bigger body. Taj Washington, small, compact, maybe somebody you're thinking about projecting to the slot. The same could be said for Malik Washington as well. That big play that you saw earlier, that was from the slot. So,
how long have the Broncos needed a slot receiver?
Since Wes Welker.
Since Wes Welker, right.
It's been a minute. Wes Welker's last season was 10 years ago with the Broncos.
Wow.
Think of it, and they've tried a lot. I mean, remember we saw Bubba Caldwell that had the role for Peyton Manning's final year, and then Jordan Norwood had a hitch there. They wanted it to be Deshaun Hamilton. Deshaun, unfortunately, had a habit of having drops at the worst possible time.
Right.
When you thought he was about to have that breakthrough. I remember against the Raiders in Oakland 2019, he dropped the pass. Broncos have been looking for a true slot. And, they thought Carlos Henderson could be a slot, right? Didn't work out.
Maybe KJ Hamler they thought could be a slot.
We've been having this discussion for a long time. But the thing is, on slot receivers, you can find those guys on day 3. With Malik Washington and Taj Washington, you are probably talking about, because I don't think they're going to be around 5, 6, 7, but I think these are 4th round type of receivers that you can get and ought to be ready to contribute pretty quickly, which another positive thing if you're coming from that day 3 range.
Yeah, you're excited to get them early on day 3, so 4th round is the realm of the Washingtons. We do have a Taj Washington clip that we need to play for you. Before, Mace, I get to tell everyone, and you love him too, so I'm going to say both of us fell in love today with a pass rusher. But first, let's see that beautiful bean footage of Taj Washington. Ayabi, Oki, Anoma, Charlotte by way of Alabama. some other stops too.
Yes,
but still,
there's a University of Houston stop.
Right.
UT Martin,
yes.
I believe.
Yes.
That's actually where he got his bachelor's degree. University of Michigan, but the key thing is he ends up at Charlotte because Charlotte hires Biff Poggi to join their staff as head coach. He had worked at Michigan. He brings this young man with him. The number, again, this is why you don't want a stat scout, number scout, because you're going to see 5.5 sacks last year.
And you're going to think, big deal, 5.5 sacks. It's in Charlotte. Why didn't he get more?
The thing is, he's here for a reason. And look, you've got, both the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl. Scouts put together these rosters, and so it's more about skill set and projecting than numbers. And today, he was absolutely dominant in the one-on-one drills.
Yeah, the pit is what I call it. It's my favorite drill of all of these all-star games, and it's one-on-one, mano-a-mano, and he dominated. I said in my report today, unblockable. Mm-hmm. It was amazing to see because he has multiple moves to get after the passer. This isn't just a guy that's a one-trick pony that uses speed. Maybe he's a bend and burst guy. Maybe he's a guy that uses the rip too often, or maybe he's a swim move guy, or perhaps a spin move guy. He's got all the tools that you need from the edge with that length, and football intelligence just off the charts with this kid.
Exactly. I mean, first of all, talk about the length. He's 6'4", 200. He's 253 pounds as he's listed on the Shrine Bowl roster. I don't know if that was the measurement that he had this week, because of course they do the official weights,
the weigh-ins,
the weigh-ins on these guys. But boy, he played like he could handle having his hand in the dirt, and that was something interesting to talk about. Like he did express a preference for playing in a stand-up,
and he gave us
alignment.
The why of that too.
Yes, but I thought he made a very good acquittal of himself when he had to go. When he had to go into a 3-point stance today.
Yes, and that's why these games again are important, because players are put in uncomfortable situations. Receivers haven't caught from these quarterbacks. The edge rushers or offensive linemen have to go on one-on-one drills against some of the nation's best. You're coming from Charlotte, even though Alabama was where he started. This is a big test, and you're just kind of thrown in.
Yeah.
And who can prove themselves? I think that Okianoma, and I got that right. I even asked him how to pronounce it. But that he definitely proved himself today.
Well, also, I mean, there's a cool backstory on even his last name, Oki-Anoma. He added the Oki in the last year or so to honor his mother as well, to include that. At Alabama, you mentioned that he had a roommate that y'all may know, Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
And at times, when he dropped into coverage, he'd have to cover Jalen Waddle. And so, because I asked him specifically about dropping into coverage, because if you are going to be a stand-up 3-4 edge, which if the Broncos drafted him, that's what he would be. Every so often, you're going to have to drop into coverage.
Yes.
And if you had that experience of dealing with Jalen Waddle in practice, you're not going to get phased when they ask you to go drop and cover a tight end or even cover a slot in short area. So I like the mindset this guy has. We had a long conversation with him today. Yep. Here's a little snippet of that from the chat that Cecil and I had, including a question that Cecil had as a follow-up.
I have a guy in Florida, two guys. One guy is Big Skills Academy. He's based out of the DMV, and the other one is Sack Sensei. And they just always have a rush plan. So move, counter move, and then get out of jail free card. And I just stay to always think like that. And I also like to look at the tackles, their stance, how far they're leaning, so I know how deep they're trying to get out, or if they're really balanced. So I know that they really trust their kick steps. And when you look at little stuff like that, you kind of get a little sense of how they're gonna set you. So you know whether you can beat them upfield, or so today, as far as the bull rush, you know that, okay, this guy's going to come a little balanced, and if he's balanced and I'm going forward, it's only one way he can really go back. So.
As a pass rusher, you also seem to take a lot of pride in just talking with you now on being able to stuff the run as well. I mean, so many pass rushers God bless you all, but you're all hungry for the quarterback. But you got to stuff the run too.
I mean, it's almost like Sunday. I look at it like a work week. Like you work real hard during the week, so you get to the weekends. You understand what I'm saying? And that's like pass rush. So you work real hard on first and second down, so you can get to third down. Because if you don't get to third down, and they just keep converting, they're just gonna keep on running the ball. So it's stuff like that. So that's why like this week I just really trying to get really better on playing the run, especially like against all these like talented guys, and showcase that I'm not one-dimensional.
Yeah, Mace, I'm in love, absolutely in love, and
Football IQ
off the charts. Before we move on and we kind of wrap up today's show, first Shrine Game Practices 2024, Frisco, Texas, orange and blue today. Yabioki Anoma and his intent of run defense, right?
Yes.
And most pass rushers just want to get after it. The fact that he wants to stuff the run and get after it, and compared it to the work week and then the weekend having your fun, I absolutely love it.
There were some guys who had some really cool ways of thinking about football and kind of get into life. And that was one of them from Yabioki Anoma, thinking about, the pass rushing is kind of the fun, but you got to do the work otherwise.
Right.
It's hearing from running backs. I mean, we hear from Jaleel McLaughlin, but we heard today as well in the media area. Got to work on pass pro. And that's the dirty work, right? When you're an edge rusher, setting the edge, defending the run, that's the dirty work. No one, you're not getting bonuses for setting the edge.
We talked to guys about special teams today.
Yes.
This is dirty work.
A lot of these guys are going to have to play special teams if they're going to stick. And again, because we're talking about round 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the undrafted pool, that those guys have to have a role in that phase if they're going to stick early. So it's good to hear that kind of mindset coming from these players. We heard one that was that the Air Force safety.
Trey Taylor.
Trey Taylor, who talked about making his bed, because that's something you have to do at Air Force.
First thing in the morning.
You have to make your bed. It wasn't something he did when he was growing up.
No.
And how that sort of thing leads to having attention to detail in everything you do, not just in life, but here in the football space. And that sort of thing is music to a coach's ears, right?
Oh, they're going to love it.
If a player is focused on the little things. And those are going to separate you as you try to make the back end of a roster. Can you do those things? Do you have attention to detail? Are you focused on everything? Is there nothing that eludes you, right? And when you hear about running backs saying, I got to work on pass pro, edge rushers saying, got to defend the run.
That's cornerbacks that say, I got to play special teams.
And we heard all that today. And we saw that on the practice field. So it's one of the reasons why I love this week, year after year.
We're both like pigs in slop today.
We talked to some guys who had some real strong intangible attributes that are going to serve them well if they get to the next level. And all these guys delivered on the field as well, but having it up here as well. That's the thing. That was a thing that kind of jumped out to me today.
And we might have talked to a couple of future Broncos. You just never know.
Let's see.
Mace, I think that's a good way to wrap up today's show. We got to get some dinner, baby. Let me finish. I got
to eat too, because we got to be up early in the morning. It's another early practice out there at the Star at Dallas Cowboys facility. Is where they're having this. It's a beautiful facility.
Am I doing the YouTube rap, or are you doing the YouTube rap?
Let's do it together.
We should do it together. Okay.
Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid.
Right in front of a live A-Loft audience.
Yes.
He's Andrew Mason. I'm Cecil Lammey. OBT is BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty.